Hello and welcome to another episode on Frames Team, and today I'm going to share my experience of using the 800 f6.3 with you. First of all, for me this is less of a large animal wildlife lens. Depends on the distance from you and the subject, but in most situations this is the lens that you choose if you're a birder. If you're a bird photography enthusiast or a professional, this is the lens for you. This lens is slightly actually lighter than the 400 f2.8 that I shot with the last time. The first difference is that it is less than half the price of the 400 2.8. The second difference is that it can go up to 800 mil. The 400 2.8 with the teleconverter on will go as long as 560 mil. But yes, this is a f6.3 lens, so you may find yourself shooting at ISO 3200, ISO 2500. But if you manage the shutter speed well, if you're shooting stationary subject, maybe you can bring the shutter speed down to even 2/50th of a second for a stationary bird. The IBIS with this lens works so flawlessly that you're not going to feel awkward shooting at that relatively slow shutter speed of 1/200th of a second, or even at 1/160th of a second. Honestly, I'll show you some pictures. But if you're shooting action, if you're shooting birds in flight, there is a certain degree of difficulty when you're trying to spot a bird that's flying in or out or laterally, because this is a very zoomed in lens, and because this is a super telephoto, at times you might find it difficult to spot the bird and grab the bird within the frame and then track it. Once you've grabbed the bird and you've started tracking the bird, you'll feel lucky that you're actually shooting with the 800 mm lens, because then the bird is going to fill the frame a bit more than on a 600 mm lens or a 560 mm lens. Of course, the 600 f4 has a TC, and that can go up to I think 840, so that's a bit more zoomed in. But at least with that lens you'll be able to see the scene at 600, then maybe use a teleconverter and zoom in. With this you don't have that, so you start at 800 and you are stuck with 800. So I felt that in some situations, especially for birds in flight, it was difficult for me to catch them. I didn't have this problem with the 400 2.8. I managed that challenge better on the 400 2.8. When it comes to handling, there are two parts to the handling of this lens that really matters. First of all, yes, this is a long lens, but this is a lighter lens than your 600 f4 or 200 2.8. This lens stabilizes beautifully when paired with the ZF, the Z9 and the Z8. You will have no problem when it comes to stabilization, and you will feel confident. When it comes to build quality, the lens hood is quite sturdy. It fits in solidly, but the locking mechanism, it doesn't have a screw. It has that lock unlock button here, and it fits in quite sturdily, right? And it's quite a long lens hood, as you would expect. I found that when I'm not using the lens hood, it's slightly, of course, lighter and it's easier to manage for me. But especially if you're shooting against light, you should definitely use this lens hood. Now I shot against the sun with this lens, and I found almost no chromatic aberration, at least on the back of the screen. But I'll tell you, if I find chromatic aberration when I see those files in Lightroom and zoom in. But while shooting, I could spot no chromatic aberration, and let me tell you, with these viewfinders, even on the Z6 II or the ZF, and definitely on the Z8, you can see chromatic aberration when there is a little bit. Like for example, on my 70 to 200, I do spot chromatic aberration when I shoot against the sun. But today, when I was shooting with this lens, I saw nothing on the back of the screen or through the viewfinder. The other thing is the bokeh quality is absolutely mesmerizing. If you are getting bokeh, if you're able to come close to the subject a little bit, if you're able to sort of manage distance between the lens and the background, amazing bokeh. Now when it comes to autofocus with this lens, this is definitely not as good as the 400 2.8. I have to say that because I did feel that even while shooting that it missed focused a few times. Even when it grabbed the bird, I thought not all shots are in focus. That's in stark difference to the 400 2.8 even with the TC on. Now let me tell you, in most situations the autofocus is quite adequate. The autofocus is quite good. It makes you feel confident. It is only in some cases when there's a lot of action, maybe when of course the light is not very bright, that you may see a little bit of loss in autofocus. So while autofocusing, I did feel that this is better than the 180 to 600. Definitely better. The 180 to 600 is better than the 500 PF, for example, the F mount adapted on any of the Z bodies. But this is not as good as the 400 2.8. This could be because the 2.8 worth of light that the sensor gets with that lens, or it could be because the focus motor on this one is just not as accurate as that one. I think the camera does a great job of detection of the subject, but actually tracking focus and getting the bird or the object absolutely in 100% focus, this did not perform as well as the 400 2.8. If you're using the 180 to 600 mil lens, and at 600 mil that is also 6.3, that lens could actually be a better option because you have the flexibility of 180 to 600. Having said that, when you are sure that you need 800 or more, this is a lens to go for. Just do not expect autofocusing at the level of the 400 2.8 and I'm sure the 600 f4. Now, is this lens a hand-holdable lens for a couple of days and 3 to 4 hours of shooting straight? I think, like I said in the other video, I think that depends on your health. It is possible. Like, I'm not using any monopod, I'm not using any tripod. For 3.5 4 hours, I think this lens is manageable. You have to ensure that you keep your back straight, but this is a manageable lens. It's not like it is absolutely unbelievably hard to carry for a long time. Yes, if you're hand holding and trying to video shoot and trying to stabilize the lens for, let's say, more than a couple of minutes, you'll start to get that burning sensation. But that's 120 seconds straight without moving and trying to minimize any shake on your camera and lens. So that could be difficult, changing your angles. I think this is quite a manageable lens. But yes, for the weight, this lens feels a bit longer. I would have liked this lens to be slightly short, maybe a couple of inches shorter, or at least an inch shorter than what it is right now. Could have been nice. Now let me take you to the studio and show you some of the pictures and videos that I've taken with this lens, and let's analyze them and talk about them further.
So I thought a lot about what further analysis, dissecting, cutting should be done on this matter, on this lens. I don't think it's required. I just loved editing the shots. I saw beautiful background bokeh rendering. Actually, I was quite astonished. I never expected an f6.3 lens to render such beautiful bokeh in the background, such smooth rendition. The sharpness is impeccable. Like I said, you can really crop in. The ultimate test, shooting directly into the sun, and this lens wasn't even bothered.
So let me know what you thought about this lens. Are you planning to buy this? If so, with which body? Are you waiting for the f6.3 and this one to go to be paired together? Or do you think you want to go for the Z8? Is it the Z9 for you? Have you tried it to the ZF? I think that's going to be an adventure. Some markets, Nikon is actually positioning the ZF as a wildlife camera, and I can tell you ZF can do wildlife quite well. This video is being recorded on the ZF and the 50mm 1.8. If you're looking to get this lens, I think this is that specialized birding lens that if you are a serious birder, you should go for. Maybe you can have the 180 to 600 as a primary camera for most situations, and then for the specialized situations, go for this one. But definitely, if this is the only lens you're going to get, I'm not sure if this is the lens for someone who's going to have just one lens. For that, possibly it is a 600 6.3 because it's slightly cheaper. Possibly this is a 180 to 600. So I'm going to end today's discussion here now. Let me know what you think about this lens. I had a lot of fun shooting this lens and the 400 2.8 the other day. I look forward to using the 600 f4 if I get my hands on it. So write your comments down below, ask your questions. I'll try and answer them to the best of my abilities. I'm going to see you soon with another one very soon.